This is part two of my conversation with Ashley Kelly about her new book, No Small Thing. I hope you enjoy it. It was a lot of fun getting to visit with her and talk about her story, her book publishing, book writing process, how she got the idea, and what she hopes to do with the book. So sit back, relax, and enjoy No Small Thing with Ashley Kelly.
Welcome to the Scott Townsend Show, brought to you by Pizza Man Productions.
Tell us the story of the little red pickled onions.
I don't like onions. No, thank you. I do not like them. And it was a couple years ago at our small group at church. We have a guy that usually makes us dinner every night for our small group. And the next day, my husband was making a taco for lunch, and he was like, "You have to try these. You have to put these pickled red onions on just a couple of them. Just try it one time." I was shocked by how good they were and how it changed my taco. It's so funny, and I use that as an example, the opening of that chapter, because it's so silly. It's so little, pickled red onions, but it changed how I now eat my tacos, and I put them on all kinds of other things now too. So it's just like little things, they may seem silly, but they can and they do matter.
In the big plan, you wrote something that I've never thought of before. Actually, this was the first time I had ever heard anybody say this. So I thought that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Hopefully it's right.
Yeah. You said that you were talking about how big God is and stuff like that. And is it Jesus on page 42, Jesus trudged forward on a hill he created.
Mm-hmm.
When I read that, I was like, what? And that's, wow. So the cross that he was hung on, he had made. The wood,
Yeah.
The hill that he died on had been he created it all.
Mm-hmm.
God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
I'd never thought of it, never heard anybody say that before.
Yeah.
And the people in front of him that were killing him made him. He made them,
Mm-hmm.
and he still offered himself up for all of them and us.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
It is. That's how much he loves us. Like it was his love for us that drove him there. It wasn't I'm going to be the hero. You know what I mean? Like, that's not God. That it was that he created us. We chose, humanity chose against him, continued choosing against him over and over and over. But his love for us, his desire to have us back, to have that beautiful, perfect relationship that we were created for, it drove him to the cross. It hit in a different way.
Yeah. Tell us how you came out of the feeling of insignificance and nothing matters. What was that journey? I mean, do you feel that way now?
No, I don't. Yeah. I don't know if I ever, maybe saying nothing matters is a little extreme. I don't think I didn't quite get there, but it was like I kind of said earlier, it was God opening my eyes and my heart to the idea, to the reality that I needed to think differently. I needed to change the way that I was seeing my life, what I was thinking about, how I was thinking about it. And so it just started really slow with just noticing everyday beauty, noticing those little things. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't know that this little thing was going to be so big, like just changing that. And then it kind of softened my heart, I think. And I've always loved God. I've grown up in church. After the internship, I went to Bible college. My husband and I both did. We graduated. We knew we were called to ministry. And so it's never been a question of like, I lost my faith and I found it again. It was just more of like, it was something I had always had and always lived with, and I took it for granted. And so in one way or another, I think my heart just kind of got hardened toward the beauty of God and the beauty of his word and the life that he had given to me. And so slowly by opening me up and helping me to see the beauty around me, he began softening my heart. And then I began to just feel that conviction of like, I don't even like read his word as much as people probably think I do. You know what I mean? Like I graduated Bible college and there my Bible sits on the shelf collecting dust. And so then it was just a small decision to pick up my Bible again and start reading whenever I could in the little pockets of time. Still had my little babies, and I just read here and there, and started in the Psalms because they're so relatable and emotional and raw and real and full of the everlasting love and faithfulness of God. And it just slowly began just like breaking my heart wide open. And all of a sudden my entire life had changed, and all I wanted to do was talk about God, learn about God, read his word, teach other people. And it just was that really is what made the biggest difference. And then when I became so convinced, like utterly convinced of how much he loves me, of how big he is, like this God who created those 22 quintillion stars, and he holds them in the sky, and yet he sees me and he knows me, and the Bible says that he cares about every little detail of my life. And when I began to like really like, when that sunk in and hit me, I realized, oh my gosh, that means that my life matters. That means that every little thing I do actually has significance because he sees me, because he gives me that significance. It's not what other people see or what they give me. It's who my creator, my savior, my God, it's what he says about me. And I was enough for Jesus to die on the cross for, and so all those things that I had known my whole life, that I grew up hearing, like never questioned it. But it was just like once it hit home in me, once it took root, it began to grow, and I realized that truth hits every area of my life, and that's really what the book is just how that big truth of who God is and how much he loves us and the plan that he has, how that actually hits every little area of our lives.
You said in Everyday Faithfulness Matters on page 104, good things come with time. Please don't look for immediate results. Slow growth is growth. More often than not, it is the most sustainable kind of growth. So often we're looking for that quick fix, that microwave mentality.
Or you have to work for it.
Oh, you have to work for
we
it.
understand. Yeah, we understand that when it comes to those of us who are, I say of us, because it's not me, into like working out and like, the physical stuff, watching what we eat and, all of that. And so there's a lot of people that get that. They understand, like, yeah, you can't go work out one day and all of a sudden you're like ripped and you're ready to go. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. It's slow. And I think a lot of times we're more willing to accept that, with the physical body. But we don't understand that it's the same way with our spiritual, like with God and with our discipleship in just our lives in general. Like it's slow growth. Very few things in life happen really fast that remain healthy. It's just not how God designed things.
Over in your chapter, the ministry of small things, you talk about the pickled red onions.
Yes.
I thought you should put a little picture of some red onions on your cover. I thought
I know.
that would be a little good little Easter egg. Anyway, Tell us the story of the little red pickled onions.
It's so funny. I don't like onions. I don't like I used to when I was younger, I used to like absolutely every onion. No, no cooked onions, absolutely no raw onions, nothing. As I've gotten older, I can handle cooked onions now. Um, Still raw onions, no, thank you. I do not like them. And it was a couple years ago at our small group at church. We have a guy that usually makes us dinner every night for our small group. And he's amazing. And he had made it was taco night. And so he had taco, all the things and all the toppings, all the fixings, and he had made some homemade pickled red onions. And of course, that night I did not put pickled red onions on my taco because ew. And the next day we took all the leftovers home with us, and the next day my husband was making a taco for lunch. And he was like, you have to try these. You have to put these pickled red onions on your just a couple of them. Just try it one time. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I'm telling you, you are gonna love it. It is just gonna take this taco to a whole new level. And I was like, fine, I'll just do it. I'll try it. So, I grabbed a few, put them on a taco, and I was shocked by how good they were and how it changed my taco. And they didn't taste like raw onions. Like it had changed it was just so good. And so now I almost always have a jar of homemade pickled red onions in my refrigerator for taco night because we have tacos all the time. And it's so funny. And I use that as an example, the opening of that chapter, because it's so silly. It's so little, pickled red onions, but it it changed how I now eat my tacos, and I put them on all kinds of other things now too. And so it's just like little things. They may seem silly, but they can and they do matter.
Thank you for joining the Scott Townsend Show. We'll be back right after this.
Before we continue, the best way to support the Scott Townsend Show is by telling friends, family members, and becoming a patron at patreon.com/the Scott Townsend Show. So yeah, we have awesome perks, personalized videos, personalized episodes, all kinds of cool stuff at different tier levels. Patreon allows us to do the show full-time, part-time, anytime. So thank you so much for your support. Small little things can and do matter. Okay, I like that. You said if we were sitting on my couch, cozied up with a blanket and warm drinks in our hands, I'm guessing, and tea for me, then I'd give you the extended version. What's the extended version?
Is that in when I was
Yeah,
in
from the
what chapter?
moment. Yeah, a little leading goes along. A little
So it's talking
leading
about
goes a long way.
yeah, it was talking about the book. I was talking about,
Yeah.
me just kind of there's a long time where just me going back and forth with God, like, is this what you're asking me to do? Like, this book? Is this you or is this me? Is this your idea or is this just something that I really want to do?
So how did you determine that?
Um, it was a long time of going back and forth, and the small thing, it kept popping up. I kept seeing it everywhere. I couldn't um get it out of my head. And then but what really like pushed me over the edge was it was 2 summers ago. We got into a car wreck on our way to the beach, which was a bummer, and it totaled our minivan. We were totally fine, but our minivan was no longer going to be with us, and so we had to buy a new car, which is a big deal if you're not ready, if you don't have that planned.
Mm-hmm.
We like to buy with cash, all this stuff, and so it's just like, oh my gosh. And so eventually we worked out all the insurance, all the things. And so finally it was time to find a new car, buy a new car. We found one we liked in Tulsa. We had a great experience with our car salesman. He used to be a pastor, all these things that just kind of put us at ease. And we're like, okay, maybe this is, the right thing, just those little things even.
Hmm.
And he takes us into, what is it, like the financial office, you
Hmm.
go talk to the guy about all the
Finance. Yeah.
details. And this guy was he was such a character. He was very relational, super nice. And it's a slow process. They're doing whatever they have to do. You're just like, can we be done yet? And
Hmm.
he's basically giving us his life story. And he's a Christian. And he was telling us how he was writing a book, how he felt like God was kind of leading him to write a book. And he was telling us about all these encounters that he would have with people. And it just seemed like you can't explain that without God, all these
Hmm.
things. And it was really encouraging for me. He had no idea that I was currently like having the same kind of conversation with God about writing a book. He had no idea. He knew we were pastors. He said that like he had 6 or 7 pastors in the past couple of weeks. And so that's so rare. Like I never have pastors in here. And he's like, what is God doing? And inside I'm thinking like, God, what are you doing? Like, why are we having this conversation right now? And so we get everything settled. We buy our car, all this stuff. And a couple of days later, I was sitting down, kind of, praying and wrestling with God about this. My kids were at VBS, so the house was quiet and I could actually think. And I just, for some reason, that guy popped into my head. And I remember that he gave us his business card. And for some reason that was really important to me. Like I want to know what his name was. Like if he ever writes a book, how am I supposed to know that he wrote a book? Like if I don't know his name, or whatever. And so I ran out to the car. I stuck his business card in the glove department and ran out to the car, found the business card, and I like turned it over. And because I could not remember what his name was. And his name, I don't remember. I have the business card. I don't remember what his first name is though. His last name was Small. And in that moment, I was like, are you kidding me? Because like, I knew the book that I wanted to write, that I felt like that I was asking, like, is this what you're leading me to? It was all about small things. I called it the small book, and had this conversation with this complete stranger about him writing a book and about all the things that God like orchestrates in our lives. And I just have to go find his business card to remember what his name is. And I pull it over, turn it over, and there it is. His last name is Small. Like, God, is this like, this has to be, he's like, I don't know what else I can do, Ashley. You just need to like, this is it. And so it was then that I was like, all right, fine. And I started outlining the book and uh, kind of working through it, and still had to fight myself and, all the thoughts. But it was at that point that I was like, either this is just crazy coincidence or it's God. And I'm going to choose to believe that it's God.
Have you ever written a book before?
No,
So how did you get started? What's your writing process like? How did you get started?
my process is messy. I have a really hard time. Like I said, I outlined the book, but for the life of me, could not go in and outline a chapter. I could not. And it's the same way when I work on like a message or a sermon for church. I can't, I have a really hard time outlining and then going from there. So it's almost like I start at the beginning and just work all the way through, and it becomes what it becomes. It's probably not the most uh like efficient way to do it, right?
But it's your
But
way.
it's the way I've always kind of thought as I write. Like that's where my thoughts become clear. I'm not so much like an audible thinker. I write everything out and I'm like, do I really think that? And I'm like, yes, I do. Yeah, that's what I think. I can't just like off the top of my head do that. And so yeah, and I wrote it straight through. So I know some authors will like, oh, I know what this chapter is about, so I'll write this chapter, and they can kind of like bounce around.
Oh yeah.
But for this one, because it was so like, it is linear and it does like go in order. I couldn't like jump to the end before I wrote the beginning, or or whatever. So yeah.
Hmm, it's cool. It's your way, so it's got to be okay.
I mean, it worked.
It's the Ashley Lane way. Hey, this book was a great encouragement to me, but I know it will be a great encouragement to everyone who reads this. This podcast, for example, there's times when I think I should just quit. I should just stop it. I do it because I just enjoy doing it, whether there's 100 people subscribed to it or 10,000 subscribed to it. It's just sometimes, and so when I was reading this book, I was really encouraged by it. Like don't give up. Don't be, you're starting off small. Uh, you're making your chops.
I love that you're following, a passion, and it's not about the bigger and the better and the numbers and the money, and which that's what motivates so many people out there. And I have struggled with the same thing. Even at the very end of the book, there's a note to the reader, and it talks about that that this book is my small thing offering, because I don't have a platform. I don't have I remember when I was like, I really feel like I want to be a published author. How do I make that happen? And I began looking into it, and this was like in 2018. Anywhere you looked, even for the Christian publishing, what they would tell you, the bare minimum, you have to have 10,000 followers. You've got to have at least 10,000 followers. You got to be a good writer, because why would any publishing company want to work with you if they're not going to be able to like make money off of it? You know what I mean? And so
Right.
like what? I have to have 10,000, for years I was caught up in like, okay, so I have to build a platform. I have to do all this stuff, and knowing that wasn't, I didn't want to spend my time doing that. I wanted to write. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
encourage. I wanted to teach. But the world and social media is full of the people that build those platforms and then get, what they want. And so like this book is just it's like my declaration. It's me standing my ground and saying, this is no small thing. I am no small thing. And if it's one reader, it was worth it. If it's just the people at church that read this book, then it's worth it. And I had to fight through that, and I had to solidify my motivation behind writing this book. And so I wrote a little letter at the end just saying, like, this is enough. And if this is all it is, then that's all it is. And I'm 100% okay with it. So I understand.
That's what I'm talking about right there. I needed to play that back to myself. Man.
Yeah, so I understand. I totally understand where you're at.
Celeste will tell me, she'll say, well, do you enjoy doing it? And I'll say, well, yeah, I really do. She goes, well, then just keep doing it.
Yeah.
You just, if that's what you do, then just do it. Who
Yeah.
cares if you have one or a million?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You have no idea what kind of impact it's having on, somebody else. And that person could maybe never tell you.
Right.
Never know.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. That was a fascinating conversation. If people want more information about you and your book, where do they go?
They can find me on Instagram at Ashley Lane Kelly. I do have a website. I don't do much on it. It is rootedandstrong.com. But I'm really most active on Instagram. So that would be the best way to find me.
Amazon, you can buy the book, I guess, and all the
Yeah, you can buy the book
major
on
players.
Amazon. It's at Barnes and Noble, not the store, but
Yeah.
most people, I just send most people to Amazon.
All right. Well, for Ashley Lane Kelly, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for watching and listening to the Scott Townsend Show. Have a great day. Everything's going to be all right. And we'll talk to you later.
Scott Townsend Show is a Dietzo Man production. For more episodes, visit the Scott Townsend Show YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
Τζάνετ, φροντίστε και κοιτάξτε πάνω από τον ώμο σας πριν αλλάξετε λωρίδα.